newly branded Graduate School of Healthcare Management, you are very welcome to join us. We have a very exciting panel of alumni students today, and Miriam Holden, my colleague, will be questioning our alumni panel. So just to start off and give you a brief overview of the webinar, if you'd be so kind as to mute your microphones and turn off your cameras unless you're being questioned. There will be a recorded version of this webinar which will be sent out to all of you. So today our speakers are Miriam Holden, and we have, as I mentioned, 4 alumni students, and Miriam O'Farrell and myself, Amy Graham, on the panel. So I just want to talk about the Graduate School of Management. So the Royal College of Surgeons is ranked among the top 2% in Times Higher Education World University Rankings for 2021. We've been developing leaders in healthcare for over 220 years, particularly empowering women in leadership. We are accredited internationally by the National University of Ireland. So some of the online resources available for prospective students include a 2-week online orientation, an abundant RCSI online library, reference guide, academic writing and support for all your coursework assignments, as well as recommended reading lists. You will also have a program coordinator for your chosen course who will be there to assist you throughout the year. So we have abundance of resources available for all students. So our global footprint across the world, as you can see from the map here, is massive on scale. We have alumni from all over the world, not just from Ireland and Europe and the Middle East, but as far as Australia, Asia, South America, and North America. So now I'm going to hand you over to Professor Robert Mcmurray, who has very kindly joined us from his holidays today. We're grateful to have him. So I'll pass it over to you, Robert. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome. It's really good to be speaking with you. It's raining outside, so I really don't mind that it's a holiday time. And this is important. It's I think I'd start first by thanking our alumnus. It's really great to have you come back, and I very much appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences. What you think about what we do and how we do it is perhaps the most important set of reflections we can have as the school develops and grows. And I suppose that's a point to start with. We have changed. The world has changed a lot in the last 18 months, and so have we. Up to this point, we've been the Institute of Leadership. And as of this month, we're the Graduate School for Healthcare Management. That change reflects the university's belief in the importance of managing and leading effectively when it comes to healthcare, and that this school has an important role to play in developing future leaders and helping nurture talent that is not just clinical in nature, but also organisational. So as a graduate school, our job is to challenge managers, clinicians, executives, policymakers and private sector leaders to engage with the latest ideas and practice. And we're committed to that, not just in terms of teaching, but also in terms of research that expands and drives learning. So we aim at offering courses that in terms of degrees and diplomas, and also our own research that tackles grand challenges and complex problems in areas such as quality, leadership and systems, empowerment and well-being, really big subjects during the COVID-19 crisis, entrepreneurship, innovation and digital disruption, change, and of course leadership itself. And that's challenging what we traditionally understand to mean by leadership, and how it links to working with others, working collaboratively. So whether you're with us for an hour or you're a graduate for one of our diplomas or masters, our job is to help make you think differently about managing and organising as part of the university's mission to educate, nurture and discover. Now, In terms of education, as I've already implied, we're specialists in providing you with the tools and concepts you need to look again at how we manage so that you and your organization can take the next steps in leading better health. And that's whether this be in the management of high performing teams, negotiating change or re-engineering processes. It might be about managing relations or developing talent. And let's face it, there's a lot of talent in healthcare organizations. Technological transformation, and I should say we've got a brand new diploma coming this year on that, so do look out for that if that interests you in particular. Collaborative advantage, or how we might benefit from diversity. And again, that's at the heart of what we do, and I think you can see from our alumnus here, we're about giving the opportunity to meet a wide range of people and learning from diverse experiences, whether that be in terms of profession and occupation, or the background of the organizations people come from, or the different cultural contexts. Seeing and working with others outside of our normal sphere is a great opportunity to learn. And I'll be perfectly honest, you'll get things from your peers on our courses that you can't get from us as experts in the field. No matter how good we are, we would never pretend to know everything or have experienced everything. So we'll carefully guide you through your journey in postgraduate education, nurturing your interests, ideas, and leadership passions. And so that might be taking particular subjects, that might be talking to you about what's happening in your organization and sharing experiences. That might be, for example, on our degrees in terms of being able to take organizational development projects and really get your teeth into something that might change your organization, or indeed even national systems. And we've had some really good and exciting projects that have done that. We'll also help you discover how best to evaluate the massive information that is out there. Now, given what you've done today and your qualifications today, I'm sure you're already pretty darn good at that. But we'll help hone those capabilities in terms of looking at the vast amount of organizational data that's out there in terms of how best to practice, how best to link with colleagues, how best to develop services, and even how best to make your own contribution to management theory and practice. And again, it's from doing your own pieces of research, your own work within the modules, and getting to come up with new ideas that you can demonstrate that you really understand something and that you can make some exciting changes. So our job is to help you discover, understand, employ, and critique the very latest ideas, established theory, and best practice. So we try to do that all within a safe and supportive and nurturing environment where you can work with other people who have similar concerns. That's the advantage of coming to a school dedicated to healthcare management. You know that everybody on our courses is focused around a similar set of issues and has experiences that they can share. So I suppose I'll just finish up by kind of stating the obvious. Healthcare management really matters. What healthcare leaders do and what managers do really matters. And again, the COVID-19 crisis has shown that. We can have the very best of clinicians and scientists, but if you can't organize the results of their work, if you can't put effective systems in for track and trace, if you can't understand the public health data, if you struggle in terms of negotiating how you get your vaccines and then how you deploy them, all that expertise goes to waste. So how we organize our healthcare services, how we make sure we don't waste those brilliant minds and talents that are involved in healthcare in its widest sense, public and private, direct provision and industry, is really important. So how you develop and grow matters to us. Your ideas, your collaborations, your communications, decisions, and will impact on working lives and well-being of a vast network of people. So you deserve, we think, the best support to help you with that, to make sure that we're developing responsible leadership that offers support in healthcare. So we're pretty passionate about managing and organising. We don't think it's everything in the world, but we do think it's pretty important, and we'd really welcome the chance to share that passion with you. So I will hand over to our guest speakers and let them tell you a little bit about themselves and what they think of their time with us. So thank you very much for listening today.
Thank you very much, Robert, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today on your holidays. Much appreciated. Great to have you on board. So now I'm going to hand you over to one of my favourite colleagues, Miriam Holden, who is going to be holding the fort for us today. So Miriam has worked with RCSI in the Graduate School of Healthcare Management since 2018, and she is one of the best student recruitment advisors that we have, and she has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the recruitment process as well as the course modules. So take it away, Miriam.
Hi everyone, after that introduction, no pressure Amy, thanks a million. Today we are talking to some of our alumni, and this is the best experience for our incoming students to get a glimpse into the future of what they can look forward to. And I think the best thing about our courses are that we take on healthcare professionals across the board. So you might do a course along with someone else, and you'll get completely different things from it, and you'll learn a lot from each other, like Robert said. So I suppose we'll start off because I'm just conscious of time. We have a lot to get through. We also put a question box up on our social media platforms, so we'll be getting to some of those questions online as well at the end for our alumni. So if you want to sit tight throughout, take it all in, have a listen, write down all your questions, and we'll get to them at the end. So we'll start with Faisal. So do you want to turn on your mic and your video, and we'll get going?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
Thanks. Welcome. How are you?
Great. Doing very well.
It's so good to see some of our alumni coming back now. Do you want to explain to our listeners here today a little bit about your role and what course you did with RCSI, and give a little background of what you do?
Yeah, so I joined RCSI's master's program in healthcare management in the Dubai campus in 2018. And graduated in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. We had a very special graduation. And I'm currently the head of government, public and medical affairs in Roche Diagnostics Middle East, based in Dubai.
So you've been very busy over the last couple of weeks.
yes, 18 months to be precise.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did a master's in healthcare management. I suppose, like, with your role working with government, it's obviously very important to be giving them the right information and stuff like that. How has the course benefited your role? And I suppose what tools and elements of the course kind of stood out to you over the last to help you with the last couple of months?
One thing I quickly learned in RCSI is the knowledge is within each student. So RCSI can guide us using exactly what you just said, tools. Those tools are very beneficial. I found change management tools, especially, extremely beneficial for my role. I consider my role to introduce disruptive change in some of the elements of healthcare, especially I know that in healthcare management, we had one dedicated module on governance, but it's more of a quality topic. But yet, for me, governance was one of the most important elements that I looked into, and I actually explored beyond what was taught in during the course. And this was, I think, the major benefit personally that I gained from this course, because based on that I was able to tackle the government's need with the governance models and propose some ideas in governance, because this was an area to be explored in the UAE. And this is what really was the takeaway message. Is the first thing you hear when you join RCSI, at least when I joined during orientation, was think with the end in mind. And I had my aspiration of better healthcare, more affordable, quick access for patients to diagnostic solutions, since my undergrad is in genetics. So I'm more leaning towards the diagnostics field of healthcare, and quickly I learned that governance can enable a lot of that, proper governance. So this was the takeaway message from what I learned. And of course, every single module was inspiring. Leadership and teamwork was one of the first modules that we took, and it helped me with my career development. Actually, as a manager, it accelerated my team's productivity based on teamwork models. I utilized whatever models I saw fit at the time based on gap analysis. So it was a very scientific approach to my career life, I would say. And the information that is given during the courses is not just limited in an academic setting. It can be adapted to include in one's personal settings, in one's career journey. So it's very adaptive. And this was very beneficial and advantageous for me.
And I was just looking at some of the questions that were coming in earlier, and I think your message on a lot of the tools and resources, they're very adaptable. And I suppose it just goes to show, like, you could start how two people could start completely different roles and leave with completely different kind of ideas of what they can use and what they can't and stuff like that. So it's a course that's very diverse. And I suppose, was there any kind of learnings from the other students that you were on the course with? And was there any surprises, I suppose, from like the different kind of levels, different kind of roles? Was there anything that kind of surprised you through the course?
I'm very happy with this question, because the way that RCSI grouped the students, I think was key to that interaction between different levels of people in healthcare. So my group, for example, I was in a team with 5 peers, and we had an MD, we had a nurse, we had an insurance specialist, and a lab tech and a pharmacist. So we had like a very good mixture of individuals who I still learned and still am in touch with them to learn more about the challenges that they face. Because everyone, sometimes a person would look at an issue from their own perspective. And knowing the challenges that others faced within the healthcare system as well is very beneficial in terms of understanding why a change needs to happen and how it will affect the different individuals represented in healthcare. Healthcare is not one discipline. It's a combination of many disciplines, and we always hear multidisciplinary, but really, if we want to understand what others are facing in healthcare every day, we need to know them and interact with them, what enabled us to do through our. So especially in year 2, I would tell the students, wait for year 2, and during the ALS, it's one of the most amazing experiences that you can get through an ALS session, because it gives you a scope into that person's way of thinking, into that person's analytical style, and it helps a lot for me personally. It helped me to grow my mindset in tackling a lot of issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to explain to anyone, ALS is action learning sets. So in year 2, you'll be given a supervisor, and you'll have a few members in your group, and you'll kind of discuss your projects and stuff like that. So I suppose this leads on to my next question. What was your project? And can you tell us a little bit about that and how it has, I suppose, how you've used this in your current role?
Yeah, so I had a planned project for managing critical pregnancies, especially pre-eclampsia, in a government hospital in Abu Dhabi, one of the 7 Emirates constituting the United Arab Emirates. And it was based on a guideline inclusion of a new innovative biotechnological biomarker to diagnose, stratify the risks, and deal with basically potential pre-eclampsia episode in critical pregnancies. I'm happy to report that based on the research that I did during my year 2 program. The company I work for in Grosh, actually, we started a formal market assessment to launch the product in the UAE. So it's good to see the theory turn into practice.
Yeah.
And this is a overwhelming feeling that I have.
Oh, that's super. It's really good to hear about these different projects, and they keep evolving after the students finish. And it's great to actually get some of them back and hear more about them, because they are great and they take a lot of effort. There's a lot of work that goes into them, and to see them evolve and progress after you've graduated is just amazing. I suppose we are just looking at what advice you'd give to students starting. If you were to look back on your year 1, all your taught modules, and then going into year 2, there's less taught modules. You have to do a lot more work on your own, but you do have your supervisor in your group. Looking back, what could you have done better or changed?
I think my answer would be a classical answer for any student is better time management. I know we all aspire to manage our time. But at the end of the day, sometimes we want to lay back a little bit. And my advice is, don't the way that the modules are designed. This requires a lot of discipline from one's own skill in terms of time management. So don't let things accumulate, I would say. And year 1, as much as it's intense and fast paced, just wait for year 2, because everything can come back together really nicely, and you'll utilize everything you have learned from the 6 modules in year 1. So amazing way to link all the learnings together, and the mix of faculty that actually presents and teaches the modules. They tend to connect previous modules with each other, and maybe even give a hook about the future learnings in different modules that are coming up. So it keeps one's mind in suspense to learn more, to get more information out. This is my main advice. And the other one is interact with, I know it might be challenging doing it online, but as much as you can interact with your colleagues. You learn way more if you utilize an interactive learning environment. And lastly, reflective practice. Reflect on personal things, on academic things, on career. I use this almost on now at work. I have a dedicated time where I reflect back on my week and see what went right, what went wrong, and how can I improve. So this is an amazing way to grow one's mindset and actually achieve more.
And I think that's a really important point. Like, I think there's a lot of things that you look back on now, having completed the masters, and you can take them learnings and actually incorporate them in your own role now. Like, for instance, the reflection, just taking especially for healthcare professionals now in the world that we do live in, it's just taking a little bit of time and reflecting on the day that you had, whether it was an amazing day or it was a horrific day. It's just taking that time and reflect, because I think we don't do enough of that. And it's come up in previous webinars before, so it's no harm to repeat it in this one. But I'm just conscious of time, but we will have some questions for you at the end, Faisal. I'm just going to come on to Andrew. He actually did the professional diploma in clinical leadership, so he'll be able to kind of talk to more about what you mentioned about the online learning and stuff like that in the group. So we will just ask for yourself to maybe hold on there for a while, and we'll get Andrew on the call there now. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Now, Andrew, how are you? Welcome.
Hello. Yes,
thank you so
good.
much for joining us today.
No,
Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your background? So I just mentioned you did the professional diploma in clinical leadership, and I suppose just to give everyone a bit of background on that course, it's always been an online course, so it was always like you have a bit of more insight into the whole online aspect and stuff like that. Do you want to give us a little bit of background, I suppose, about your current role and a little bit about yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me on. My name is Andrew Downey. I'm a medical doctor. I'm a trainee in obstetrics and gynecology. I'm currently a specialist registrar year 3, working in Galway University Hospital in the west of Ireland. I completed the professional diploma in clinical leadership. I graduated, I guess, in November last year, and I undertook the module as a part-time student from 2019 to 2020.
Super. So I suppose looking at all the courses, like what made the professional diploma in clinical leadership desirable? Like, why did you want to pick it?
Well, sure. Well, at the time, I'd sort of commenced my, what we call here in Ireland, our higher specialist training in my chosen specialty of obstetrics and gynecology. And really, I felt that aside from the clinical skills I wanted to acquire, I felt I needed to invest time in learning and understanding more about aspects of organization like leadership, governance, whether it be corporate governance and clinical governance. So that's why I wanted to engage with the School of Clinical Leadership. And the reason I chose this course, and this diploma in particular, was that I suppose it was a part-time, as you mentioned, online course that I would be, I suppose, able to fit it into my really busy clinical schedule. So I continue to work kind of a full-time role, whether we have all sorts of nighttime and irregular hours. So the course, for I guess a number of reasons, was very desirable to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose looking at it, what surprised you the most about online learning and the course itself?
I suppose what surprised me, well, I guess in some ways it was a helpful foreshadow into the COVID world that I think everyone's living in now. So even though I think the course then halfway through the COVID pandemic may have struck, but the course just continued on as it was. I mean, the course, as I say, was divided into kind of 3 essentially core modules. The second module was kind of on essentially about leading others, and the assignment associated with that module was a group assignment. It was a group assignment where I think myself and 2 other people who I'd never actually met before had to kind of essentially appraise a clinical report that was done into an NHS trust where there have been a number of bad outcomes, and we had to produce an essay and do kind of a group PowerPoint presentation to the other course participants. And I guess all of this had to be done really online without ever meeting with each other, and we had to use, I suppose, the online platform, which I think was called Blackboard, to interact with each other. It was a challenge because I'd never, as I say, met my other teammates before. I think one of the participants was a psychologist working in the community, and the other was a project manager who previously trained as a nurse. I think the task firstly surprised me, and I think needing to negotiate, kind of debate, compromise, and combine everyone's skill set into an essay form and then a group presentation without ever meeting kind of the person before was a challenge, but very rewarding. That I think we felt that we managed to pull together something that was reasonably interesting and coherent, and it definitely was a help in the context of the COVID pandemic, where so many of meetings, including this, I suppose, are done online now. So I think it definitely probably gave me a bit of a step up, if you like.
You were well prepared.
Prepared for the pandemic, if dare I say such a thing.
Can you tell me a bit about the last module that you completed? You have to do your business plan. I suppose, like, in your current role, how did you take that and implement it into your current role? And can you tell us a bit about that module, just for anyone that doesn't know?
Yeah, they say, so for this course, there was 3 modules. The last module was about quality improvement, and the assignment associated with that module was to write a business proposal for a quality improvement project. So like briefly, the project that I chose to kind of do my business case for was for the introduction of what we call, I guess, in obstetrics, for a traxy panniculus retractor for the use at cesarean section. So this would be a surgical device that's used to essentially kind of stretch the abdominal wall in order to improve the surgical outcome at cesarean sections. It was a device that I'd used in other hospitals prior to the hospital that I was working in at that time, I found that it really benefited firstly the patient's the morbidity, the safety of the procedure, improved the patient experience, and definitely improved the staff experience, safety, and resulted, I felt, in reduced complications. So I think what was most satisfying about this is that I actually did manage to introduce this device into the real-time clinical practice. So I certainly used all the skills I got from the organization and the formatting, I guess, I got from the module assignment into translating getting the tractor into our clinical practice. I mean, it was pretty kind of eye-opening experience, really. I mean, whatever about knowing the clinically correct thing to do, knowing how to implement kind of, I guess, a new procedure into a hospital system, whereby having to engage with various stakeholders, being nursing staff, the entire management and financial side of the hospitals, understanding budgets, I guess having to do a research on the project, engaging with the company Clinical Innovation on the project. It was very insightful, and I think certainly in subsequent placements I've been put on, I've managed to translate the skills I got from this into kind of, I guess, engaging with a good degree of success in more quality improvement projects. For example, in my last rotation, I was involved in the setting up of a new, called a pessary clinic. It's a new kind of pelvic floor clinic in the hospital that I worked in at the National Maternity Hospital in Dublin. And again, I think I had a much better insight into how these things worked, and the committees, the techniques, the strategies one needs to use in order to successfully engage and be successful in quality improvement.
I think this highlights the adaptability of the course tools throughout your actual role. Like, you can take your learnings from an assignment and actually implement them, and continuously implement them within your role, whether it be your current role or if you change roles and stay going. Like, they are very adaptable, and that's including our masters and our professional diplomas. So it's really good to hear all that, and I think it's really insightful for anyone listening here today to get that information, because we wouldn't be able to kind of share that. We can just tell the students about our assignments, how amazing they are. But I think when you hear the stories of how you did your assignments and implemented them into your current role, I think it's really eye-opening. So I think, just on a final note, what advice would you give to a student looking to do the professional diploma in clinical leadership?
Yeah, I think, as the course, it's set up as an online part-time course. However, I think, similar to the last speaker, I probably, to a degree, maybe underestimated or wasn't efficient enough at time planning the work that's involved with the course. It's extremely well organized with a lot of speaker input with it. We had kind of, I suppose, online lectures every Friday, and there was 3, as I kind of already alluded to, hefty assignments. I think if you're going to do the course, I think it requires work. It's yeah, but like anything, you get in, you get out of what you put into an assignment. So I think, and you get to meet a lot of interesting people. You learn a lot of interesting, hopefully, kind of lifelong career pointers and tips. I think, be prepared to dedicate time to the module. It's not just something one can kind of do as an easy side.
I think with any course, start early.
Yeah, I didn't, but I think it's strong.
You live and you learn, isn't that right?
Yes.
You had great outcomes though, so we're not too bad. We're winning
yes.
there.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew. And maybe you'll hang on for the few questions at the end. I'm just going to move on to Niharika. If you wouldn't mind turning on your camera and your mic for me.
Yes. Hello. Hi. Good evening. How are you?
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Great. How are you? So you have worked internationally. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your current role?
Okay, so like I had said before, that I was first, because I graduated from UAE. I practiced as a GP in Ajman for about 4 to 5 years. Then I decided to go abroad, and then I tried to get into the US or Toronto, and I worked in Toronto for about 2 years. And then obviously I moved back, and then I worked in Sharjah in a multi-specialty clinic as a GP for a couple of years. But now, because of COVID and everything, things have changed, and I'm taking a break because of family commitments. But I do on and off do some freelance work for conferences and, meetings here and there. But yeah, hopefully next year when the situation improves, I think we should go back to a full-time job when you have more time on your hands. Yes, but it's getting better. I think it's getting better now.
So you did the Masters in Healthcare Management?
Yes, I did the Masters in Healthcare Management.
So I suppose, like, what made you pick this course with your current role?
Okay, so I was doing a GP. I was working as a GP in a multi-specialty clinic. And honestly, I felt that, as of today, it's not enough to be a GP, though it's a great job and everything. But I wanted to achieve more in my career. So I said, how do I take my career to a next level? Like, how do I give myself a good push? So I said, why not do a Master's in Healthcare Management? Because that's definitely different. It's breaking away from the practice of medicine, but it's a great course to take up. And I think it really, like, I was very interested in the course and the modules that they were offering, and I thought that the course will help me understand the healthcare system, and it might even be help me become a healthcare manager somewhere in the future. And if I ever want to even open up my own practice or invest in my own a business or hospital, at least the course will give me a foundation of the basic understanding of what goes around in a healthcare system or an organization. Because without the basic knowledge of understanding what goes on behind at the administration side, you just cannot get up and set up a clinic or any other facility. Having medical knowledge isn't enough to run a practice. You need to be able to have leadership qualities and to learn how to manage people effectively to run a successful practice. So that is why I thought healthcare management is the way to go to understand the other side of the healthcare system.
I suppose on reflection of year one and all the individual taught modules, what was your favorite?
Okay, so honestly, year one, when I started year one, I was, when I looked at the module course and I said, how are these courses going to help me become a better healthcare leader? But then slowly and gradually, as you go through the modules, you understand that the modules, involve a lot. They're very diverse if you look at it. Mm-hmm. Each module is very different from the other. There are no two modules where the teachings are the same. But in the course of the module, they covered a lot of the healthcare aspects. Like, for example, first they taught us about organizational culture, how to manage people, and how to effectively become a leader to take up healthcare roles, and how to become a team player. They really focused on how to become a team player. Then they taught us about quality, and we went on to learn about evaluation, research, how to head a research, how to evaluate a certain situation. A lot of tools. We learned a lot of tools. And personally, because I have a knack for it, I love the finance section of it, the accounting. How they taught us how to manage the finance section of the healthcare organizations. And yes, then I felt by the end of year one, I felt that all the modules that I had done gave me a very, different aspect. Each module gave me a different aspect of an organization. It was like as if the whole year I spent walking from one department to another department in the administration section of an hospital, because I got to do risk management, I got to do, healthcare management, I got to do finance, I got to do some research. So I feel that the course was very well cut out, and they try to cover a lot, though obviously one year is obviously not enough time to cover so many different subjects if I look at it. But at RCSI, the faculty, they really tried their best to cover what they could in each module. And even our faculty, in class, the activities that they would give us, like, for example, case studies or poster making or process mapping, small assignments, each and every activity that we did with every module, it just reinforced the learnings of the module. Like, it was a different approach to learning, but it really helped understand. So now when you look at it, all the practical knowledge that we took from the case studies and our activities and our interactions in the class, those anecdotes, they stick with you, and you actually put them to use every day in your practice, because you go reflect back and you go like, oh yeah, I had done this activity, like I have been through this, I've seen a case like this, and this is how you deal with it. And what mainly we learned from the modules is if you don't have the answer, literature has it. Like you go back and research about something. If it could be anything, go back and research about it. Or you have so many online forums and groups. You have your RCSI alumni group. You put up a question and you will have like 20 answers immediately. So that support system and that going back and reading up on something is something that I really took back from the courses, the modules in RCSI.
I think you just highlighted how practical the modules can be and how well the lecturers get that message across. I think what's really important in healthcare management is, and just management in healthcare across the board, is like putting yourself into situations that you might necessarily be in before. And I think this can be seen in some of our executive development courses with the after action learning sets, where they're put into a situation with actors. And I think that's brought across then, the more you do it, the more you'll be ready for it.
Yes.
And I think that's what our lecturers try to get across a lot. So although the Masters in Healthcare Management is very, it might be high level in some aspects, they do cover a lot of skill sets that you'll be able to carry through. And I suppose they're prepping you for your year 2 project.
Yes.
And I suppose we will move on to that. What was your year 2 project? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
When for my year 2 project, I was very, very confused. But then when I went, my project was about introducing a healthcare technology app into my practice to manage patient appointments, patient results, patient visits, follow-ups, and everything. So if you look at it, it sounds very basic. Many healthcare facilities, major hospitals already have it. And now even more so after the pandemic, even more so because everything has become so online, global, everything has become on the web portal. So when I introduced this in my clinic, it did really benefited because organization was not a very strong point in the clinic, and we were short-staffed. We didn't have the budget to apply more and more, to hire more and more people. So introducing this app really helped in organizing the patient's schedules, helping them get their results, and the patients had become more hands-on with their medical appointments, because we were missing a lot of appointments in the clinic because people weren't having reminders. So the app kind of sends you reminders again and again that you have an appointment coming up. And then we did see an increase in the number of patients visiting the clinic, and obviously word of mouth publicity, wherein obviously it was a good for the business as well, because we attract more consumers now compared to before because of the online application that there is available, and everyone likes to be in control of what's happening, and the online application actually gives them a better insight and they feel in control of their medical treatment. So it definitely helped my clinic's business a lot with the online application.
And there's huge learning in that at the moment. Like linking in healthcare with digital is massive, and it's just something that's growing so quickly. And I suppose I always believe in lifelong learning. So we will have that digital course ready to go in the new year for everyone if you're looking.
That's a good one, yeah, because I feel like it's there. The digital technology is getting embedded into healthcare, but it's not as much. Let's say it's about 20%, maybe 20% of the facilities are providing it. But I think soon there will be like 100%. Everybody will want to go digital with their appointments, their reports, their scans. It just, because it's the era of smartphones. Everybody's on their smartphone 24/7. If you send them a reminder on the app, it's nearly impossible that a person will miss their reminder on the smartphone. So I think everybody will soon be on all the institutions will have digital apps very soon.
No, absolutely. It's definitely an area to look out for. I suppose the final words for students looking to do the Masters in Healthcare Management.
So final word, if you are coming in from, I think, a British curriculum, it's probably going to be easier for you, or an IB curriculum students, because it's a different way of learning. Because when I joined it, coming from a medicine point of view with a bachelor's degree, I found the style of learning very difficult. It probably takes a module or two to get adapted and get better grades, because you're used to a certain style of writing and you're used to a certain style of maybe reading. And what they expect at RCI is a little more critical thinking, analyzing, reflective. So in case like a person like me was not that part, because we were medical background, our scope of learning was completely different. But it takes about module or two to, you have your trial and error, you submit an assignment, they proofread it, they send you back, and then you can work on it. So it's something which seems impossible initially if you're not doing too well, but definitely with practice, with one or two modules, you will get better at it. And by the end of year one, you will be so good at it that you will find writing your 15,000 word project report thesis like I can, with the confidence to do it, because your faculty trains you so well in the year one. You're so prepared, you can write your thesis. Definitely it requires a lot of work and dedication, a lot of reading. So you need to plan out your schedule and time accordingly so that you can take out enough time to read, because the more you read, the better you get at it in writing on theory, because it increases your knowledge, you have more exposure. But of course, with full-time jobs, I know for students it's hard to read so much. But that's why maybe they should take out some time every single day. People taking up the course should try and take out at least 40 minutes in the morning, maybe with their cup of coffee, or at night before they go to their bedtime, to read as much as they can through the course. Because if you kind of pile it up towards the end, you're going to panic and you're not going to perform very well. So yes, organization, as my colleagues already said, time management is key. But the extra thing I want to tell you is, in case somebody's coming from a different curriculum, please don't lose heart in the first two modules. You will get better at it. Your writing will get better with practice. And the more you read, the more you learn the style to write. So just hang in there. Don't panic. It seems difficult at first, but it just gets easier as it goes along.
Absolutely. No, it's very encouraging to hear that. And I suppose whenever anyone starts any type of masters, it can be a bit daunting. So it's really nice to hear that. And I suppose there is a really, really amazing orientation at the start, and there's lots of resources there for students. They have a program coordinator for each and every course, and they have a program director to link in with, as well as all the different lecturers that can help on the different courses. So you have all them supports. We'll have Miriam O'Farrell here at the end to just answer any questions on orientation or any of the resources that we have available for students. So thank you so much for this chat. You'll hang in there for a little while just for the questions at the end. I'm going to just move on to Debbie. If she's there. Debbie, are you there? If you want to just pop on your camera and your mic for me.
There I am.
Perfect.
Excellent. How are you?
I am amazing. The sun is back out, so we're not too bad. Debbie, you were also on the Masters in Healthcare Management, but I suppose it's great to get a bit of insight from all the different individuals on the Masters, because you're from you work in a completely different area. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Debbie van Tonder, and my background is psychiatric nursing, and I work at St. Patrick's Mental Health Services as a program manager. I immigrated from South Africa about 13 years ago, and then have been at the organisation all the time. So I was quite new in a senior management role when I started to think about doing the masters, and I had several change management projects, and I felt quite ill-equipped about doing the course, doing the work, and specifically with big projects, that I just felt that I needed something more, and that I needed to do some development around the management style and management skills, really. So so it is very different from the rest. It's very much from a operational point of view. So it's more operationally management of clinics and services delivered in the clinics.
I think a lot of the skills that you learn in these courses, it's just building up that confidence, isn't it? And just even meeting different people from different kind of roles and organisations and levels and countries gives you a different perspective to bring back to your own role. Was there anything that stood out from you from the network, the cohort that you were in? Any of the different learnings that you learned from other students themselves?
I think that the thing that I learned is that we're all in the same boat. So regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of our roles, so we had, we had very senior managers, we had CNM2s, we had clinicians from all spheres of the health environment in the group, and every single person were there to learn and to develop and took something different from the course. So that was quite heartwarming, is the fact that although I came in from a senior management role, everybody there was in the same boat. I didn't feel that I should have been something different than what I was, and we all started with a clean slate and started at the bottom line, learning from what the course had to offer for us. So that was, that's what came to heart, and also the experiences from people from the different countries. We had quite a few people, international people in the group with us. We started off face to face on site, so people travelled in to do the course and so on. And obviously, in our second last semester, I think in March, we went online. So we already, formed quite a lot of lovely relationships and so on with people that were actually not from Ireland and were from all over the world, really.
That's really nice to hear. And I suppose now looking into this intake, that's the experience that all the students will get with this online approach. And it's very beneficial to get that insight. And I suppose, like you've said, hierarchy is left at the door. So everyone comes in at a baseline and works from there and can kind of bring in their own little aspects of their current role and how they do different things in their processes. So I think that's really beneficial in itself. I suppose, can you tell us a little bit about year one and then your progression into year two and how you found that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, year one started off, it was actually a very interesting experience. And if I reflect on it now, it was quite interesting in the sense that with the different modules, if you look at the titles and so on, it looks quite straightforward. And from a management perspective, maybe I underestimated the amount of work that was needed. And sometimes when we got the assignment topics, I was like, yeah, that's fine, that's easy enough, But actually, it was this is where, for me, the learning around this is a master's course and not a postgraduate or undergraduate course came in, because there was such subtle layers in the assignments, and you really, really had to do the reading and you really had to manage the time. And I learned that very quickly, actually, after the first assignment. About 3 weeks into it, 3 weeks before the due date, I was like, oh, this actually is way more difficult than what I thought. And not in the sense that it was difficult, but in the sense of this is a master's level assignment and you really had to give it that time. And I underestimated the time it would have needed. So I really had to look at time management, like all my other colleagues said. The other thing that was really, really important for me is looking back at the first year after, when I started the second year, is every single module was appropriate and applicable for my change project. Every single module I had to use a piece of it in the change project, whether it was organizational culture, whether it was leadership and strategic planning, strategic management. Every single one of them played a role in the thesis. And I think that's really important for new students to remember. So don't underestimate the importance of the assignments that you're doing and the work that you're doing in year one. And everything that you do in year one accumulates to becoming a big part of your project in year two. And don't throw away your notes, because you will go back to it and you will need it. So the online materials were invaluable, and of course the core staff and Teresa and the team was just fantastic. But for me, the leadership workshop, the leadership module was still today was probably the most pivotal workshop in the sense of learning about leadership styles and becoming aware of my own leadership style and where I needed to adapt it and, adapt it to a changing environment.
No, absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Yeah, so my project was about, well, actually, it was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I started with an idea for a project and it was vetoed by my manager. So I had to quickly go back and find another project, which was a lovely project. Actually, it was a very big project. And if COVID came a year earlier, it would have been the perfect project. But at the time we had to submit a proposal, we just realized it was not going to be a runner and the data would just be way too small to do a project on. So I chose a project introducing an independent advocacy service in an adolescent mental health unit, which I was already working on and which was already starting off. So I decided to be very pragmatic about it, just basically because I had such problems choosing a project that was a runner. And I think that was the best decision in the end. It was a small project. It was very pragmatic. It was something I was doing every day, or something I had to do as part of my work. And very importantly, it was based on Mental Health Commission requirements for for accreditation, and it had senior management support, and that really made it very valuable. So there was a high level of investment from the organisation into the project, and I'm very happy to say that it was launched successfully, it was delivered, it's embedded in the service. And what was really nice about it, because it was small, I was able to implement it in the time allocated, and I was able to evaluate the project after the implementation and actually take the learning from that and adapt things and change things and be able to reflect that in my thesis. So it's embedded in the service, it's now a fully functional part of the service, and yeah, I'm very, very happy with that, I must say.
Okay, from your experience then, would you start kind of thinking of different projects then in year one and kind of getting that, like trying to figure out what you might do in year one, or would you kind of have a think about it over the summer and then get there in year two?
Yes, very interesting, because I think what is important is to remember the criteria of the year two project, the starting date. It has to be done as part of the second year, or I think you could start it maybe in the summer. That's something to just check out. But I certainly would think about it in year one, and I think it was in all our minds, but potentially towards the end of year one to see what are we going to work on and so on. But I would say definitely keep it pragmatic, keep it small, and speak to your manager, to see what is it that they think a change needs to be done. What I would say guard against is maybe something that needs a lot of, or that needs, ethical approval. Well, I'm not saying avoiding it, but ethical approval takes a long time, and that could really scupper your timing with regards to the project and launching it and making sure that you can fully implement it. And the other thing is making sure that you potentially don't start something brand new, that you need to convince a lot of people to implement it, and that you might have to do a lot of working with a lot of resistance and things like that. I think the best project in any organization is when you have got the organizational support, and knowing that this is something that's part of the strategy, that's part of the vision of the organization, that adheres to maybe new legislation, or like I said, the Mental Health Commission requirements and so on. In that sense, you will get way more support and resources that you need to implement your project.
I think this is a really good point, because on reflection, like when you're thinking of, I need to do a project, I'll try and do this really massive thing, and you don't necessarily need to do a big thing to have impact. And I think that's like proven in your point there earlier when you were discussing your own. You might necessarily think that you need to do this massive thing, but to have impact, it can be a small change. So that's a really good point to just mention to like anyone that's thinking of doing any of the master's courses. And then you can build upon that. And like Absolutely. The more small changes that you make, it becomes a bigger change. So I think that's a really, really good point that you mentioned. I think we're kind of running out of time, so I just want to kind of cover, do you have anything that any other kind of points of advice that you give to anyone doing the Masters in Healthcare Management?
Yeah, but I would say which was very helpful from Kathy and the team. Obviously, the assistant, the ALS is exceptionally important. The supervisor, and the team input. But also, what I found really helpful, especially when we started to write our thesis in the different chapters, was that Kathy and the team shared, obviously very confidentially, previous theses over a number of years in the online resources, because sometimes it's really hard to even start your chapter, and it's even hard to see how do you structure it, how do you write it. And I found that exceptionally helpful. I read every single chapter. I read about 4, 5, 6 different theses, and just look at the style and how people were writing it and so on. And obviously forming your own style then, and forming, including, following your own, everybody has a different writing style. But that was so helpful in the sense of just, okay, I am actually on the right track here. Or, oh gosh, maybe that paragraph just sounds really wrong. Maybe I should do it this way, and so on. And just that to me was a very important resource, and I used it, throughout writing the thesis, even if just getting a bit of reassurance, knowing that I'm on the right track.
No, absolutely.
Notwithstanding the support from the team, but I think the team obviously is not going to handhold you with every single, little piece. But it was just really nice to actually get like objectives and something I found really difficult was aims and objectives, to just to figure out which is which here. And I know it sounds really maybe stupid, but it really isn't, because when it is actually so difficult to really pinpoint it. So going through the different theses and reading it made it really clear in my head to see how other people formulated it and wrote it down.
No, absolutely. And I think that the RCSI library is like an amazing resource because it's healthcare focused, and like we have a whole section in there with healthcare management theses from over the years, and they're great to have, they're great to read through, to reflect on and stuff. So that was a perfect way to highlight that. So yeah, if we could get all the guests back on, if you want to pop on your videos and mics, and if we have any questions, we'd open them up to the floor if any of the attendees have any questions in particular. And we also have Miriam O'Farrell here, who is one of our senior program coordinators, who is also here to answer some of the questions. I'm just going to go, if we want to start off, if we haven't got any in the chat just yet. We have some from online. Okay, so some people were asking about, is there any group work for the online courses? So I suppose I can cover it. We've covered that in some of the actual interviews there now. And there is group work. So all of our courses are continuous assessment. They are a mix of individual assignments, group assignments, and then projects as well. So yes, there is, even though we are online at the moment, we have been running online courses for the last couple of years. And Miriam, you can speak a little bit on these online courses. You specialised in kind of working alongside these. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of the group activities and how we actually implement all this group work online?
Hi, Miriam. Hi, everyone. Great to join you this evening and to see some of our alumni, some familiar faces. So yeah, the group work online, I suppose there's two elements. There's our synchronous and asynchronous. So our live classes, where you're encouraged to have discussions, there's activities online, a lot of interaction, and then offline as well on our virtual learning environment, we'll have numerous activities where you have a chance to actually interact with your classmates on that platform.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I suppose, can you tell us a little bit about the resources that we have available for the students? Because I know that's a question that comes up a lot, that we mightn't necessarily kind of promote until they get onto the online orientation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I suppose there's a lot of support right from the start in terms of, we don't expect you to be strong technically when you're coming on. So, your learning is around healthcare management, clinical leadership, all of those areas, and we're there to support you with the technical side of things. So that's, right from orientation day one through to the end of the program. Any questions you have around Moodle, which is our virtual learning environment, Blackboard Collaborate, there's someone there always to support you. And I would say there's no question too small.
Absolutely. So I have another question in here, and I think I can answer it. It's if a nurse studied the Masters in Leadership and Innovation, what area can they practice in after? And I think we covered this with Masters in Healthcare Management students, alumni here alone. Like, we have people from healthcare professionals across the board. And I think with our courses, we can give you the tools and the different elements that you can use and progress in your own career. So I think you come here with your own goals, and I think we'll be able to kind of give you the skill set and tools that can help you achieve those goals. And I suppose, as the student recruitment advisor I've been working in student recruitment for the last 4 years, we're here to help you achieve those goals and pick the course that's right for you. And then when you get onto these courses, I think being able to kind of ask all the different questions with your lecturers and even your classmates will help you guide you to the different areas and get you that information that you may need. So if you have any questions about these different things, and if you're unsure about the different courses and stuff, you can let us know and we'll help you along the way. That's no problem at all. We have a question in there just in the chat. Are we going to be assigned to a supervisor mentor from the first year? So Miriam, you're one of the program coordinators. Do you want to speak a little bit about this?
It's not something that we do, Maya, in first year, but you would have a supervisor for your year 2 research project. But in saying that, even for our first year students, our program directors work really closely with them. So if there's any kind of question or concern you have from an academic standpoint, your program director would be, I suppose, your mentor or your contact in that way. And equally, if you have any kind of questions around the technical side of things, or submissions, deadlines, that coordination piece, you have a program coordinator who'd be your support in that area. We have another question in. Do you have any tips for work-life balance? Thinking of starting, but I'm a bit worried. Does anyone from any of the alumni want to take this question? I know we've touched on it briefly, but I suppose it's that kind of anxiety before you start a master's, when you're already busy and you have a family, but you really want to kind of reach the goals that you want to get to. Debbie, do you want to take it there?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. For me, I had to be really strict with my time management, and what I did is I allocated every week. I allocated a certain number of hours. So, for example, maybe on a Monday evening, I would watch TV or spend time with the family until about 9 o'clock, and then I would go and work from 9 to 11. And then other evenings I would actually work from 7 to 9, and maybe then spend from 9 to 11 with my husband or something like that. So, and that really introduced a culture of working and making sure that I strictly adhered to it. Now, obviously it was quite flexible at times, but that was really, really quite helpful for me. And also because we actually discussed it as a family and we agreed beforehand, this is what we will do. It really created this culture of working, and also, for the rest of the family knowing that is a time that needed to be respected. So, and that worked really, really well. And then when I had assignments due or something like that, obviously I allocated more time. Also, Saturday mornings became a study time for me. So I sometimes would get up really early and work until about 12, or sometimes I would work from 9 till 2 or something like that, obviously depending on what was due as well. And so that was, Saturday mornings wasn't a very, very active time in the home because people would sleep late and so on. So that was a time that I didn't use to study. And that, as I said, for me, it worked really well. But I mean, obviously everybody has their own little things that they need to look at. But yeah, I would just say plan it, plan your time and stick to your time.
I think we had another question. You answered a lot of this in your answer there. Can any of the alumni provide a time management tool that they apply when it worked with them? So I suppose, like you mentioned that. Do you want to answer that, Fasal?
I think the short answer is there isn't one tool that works for everyone. You need to try it out and see what works for you. For example, Debbie here gave a great example, and for me, I love studying at night, for example. So I would put it off until nighttime. I'd allocate a few hours. I think it's more quiet at night, so I concentration going in for me during. When I have an exam, for example, or an assignment due, I would wake up a little bit earlier in the morning as well and get some things going there before the workday. So whatever works for you, you need to experiment with it.
And I think it's really important to mention that a lot of these modules and courses, the way we assess is continuous assessment. So it's not this big build up to the end. You will be continuously working. So I think that's a really important thing to highlight the minute you start, that it is a level 9 master's degree. So it's not going to be easy, but it's very doable. And you learn a lot from it. And you learn a lot of organization skills, time management skills that you can use in your own role. So I think that's something that's kind of been highlighted a lot through this webinar, and I think it's really important to highlight. And it's great to have kind of that insight from the alumni here today to give kind of their different kind of tools, and I suppose like boundaries, setting time management boundaries for what your lifestyle is and what you have going on. But again, yeah, we're here to help anyway. you're not the first person to have time management issues and stuff like that. But like, if you're having any issues, we have our program coordinators here, our program directors here. So just reach out early and we'll be able to help. I'm just conscious of time. We had some amazing speakers here today, some really good questions. We might answer any of the last ones. We have one more. Are there any dorms affiliated with the schools, and can we rent out? So currently you don't actually need, all our courses are online at the moment. We do have a little bit of information on accommodation when our classes will go back to normal. So we'll be able to get you that information when it is relevant. So for now, all of our courses are online. You don't need to actually attend, so that's no problem at all. We do have a few scholarships available right now. Amy's just going to pop in the link to the scholarship applications into the live chat. Amy, do you want to give us a little bit of information on those?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for your contribution today. Before we go, thank you to Robert, all our alumni, and both Miriam's excellent talk. So before we go and we wrap things up, I just want to make everyone aware that we have a current scholarship available called the RCSI Healthcare Hero Scholarship, and this is available to all prospective students for the academic year for 21-22. And the aim of this scholarship programme is to recognise the impact and the commitment healthcare professionals across the globe are making to serve and improve patient care. So in order to be considered for this scholarship, you must be accepted on one of the RCSI Graduate School of Healthcare Management programs. So one of the master's programs or one of the professional diplomas. You'll also need to submit a 500-word essay describing your role and your impact on the healthcare industry. So I am going to put a link in the chat just now, and you will also receive an email following this with the recorded version of the webinar and more information on the RCSI Healthcare Heroes. And myself, Miriam, are here on the team to answer any questions that you have regarding the scholarship. And as I said, this is open to all prospective students across 21-22, and we're more than happy to help you with any questions that you have. I'm just going to share that link there. And thank you once again to everyone. This has been a fantastic webinar. Thank you to both Miriams, all the alumni. I think you gave some great answers there, guys, and some really practical tips. This has been a huge valuable contribution and giving real insight into each programme that we have on offer. And if we have any more questions, please email us at leadership@rcsi.com. And thank you once again to Professor Robert Mcmurray for joining us on his holidays. Very grateful to have you on board. Well done, everyone. Thank you so much and good evening.
Thanks, everyone.